Hey guys, what's up? I promised a video on Vela Bay when I get my hands on the floor plans and site plan. So today we will dedicate one entire episode looking at these two and see what it might land at eventually. Now at this point of recording, we are only a few days away from preview. I have seen whatever I need to see, so I think I can give you a better evaluation of Vela Bay itself, okay? For start, once again, Vela Bay is the OCR that agents like to use to upsell the CCR properties. CCR sell at OCR prices, so CCR is cheap lor. Well, to me, I think that's a fact. Some of the prices at Vela Bay will be more expensive than the ones in the River Valley, and it is also a fact that Vela Bay is in the OCR. So up until now, everything is a fact. But if you look at just data, everything points towards better value in the CCR region. But relying on data alone is never enough. You need to really understand the on-the-ground sentiments about the neighborhoods to really compare the two. Now, whatever we have mentioned covers your entry level. But your property investment doesn't just compromise of the entry. Most importantly, the exit is very, very important. Who are your target audiences and why will they pay you a premium in time to come? And that is the reason why I think Vela Bay is an OCR property that functions like an RS. Because it's an area that it's high in demand. It is, after all, in one of the most sought after neighborhoods in Singapore, the East Coast. But I know it's really at the end of the East Coast, but hey, it is still the East Coast after all. And the Bayshore hasn't had any new development since Costa del Sol. And you want to guess when Costa del Sol launched? Not TOP, launched. The year is 1997. Okay, and that's like close to like 3,000 years ago. Meaning residents there have to wait that long for something new. Granted, seaside residences launched about 10 years back after many years of absence. There's actually really nothing new for people looking beyond the likes of like Mayor Road, Amber, and the Parkway area. So you put that together with the fact that the Bayshore and Siglap area has plenty of locals wanting to live in that area, I cannot imagine the demand in time to come. Some more Vela Bay is on top of MRT, situated in a brand new township. Then you got sea view some more. And that's also why seaside residences perform as well as they did, from like 1,600 to 1,700 per square foot to as high as 2,000 PSF recently. Now that is a pretty big increase over the span of a decade. So once again, to get this out of the way first, in case people start to upsell you core region properties in favor of Vela Bay or any other East Coast properties, please think twice, because the demand here is going to be crazy. Understanding data alone is not enough. Perspectives are very, very important.
Disclaimer, whatever I share does not constitute financial advice. It is solely based on my opinion on what is right or wrong. So please do your own due diligence. If you're liking the content so far, please hit the like and subscribe button, as your simple gesture will help a lot with the YouTube algorithm. If you're interested to find out more about property related matters, please find all the social media handles I am on, or you can just directly reach out to me on WhatsApp. Separately, I have also set up a Telegram group at the start of the year so that we can have a discussion that we as agents are not allowed to do so online, which is to talk. So if you are interested to get into a community that talks about everything under the sun about property, please scan the QR code, or for the boomers out there, I have pasted the link in my description. We're going to close the group invitation in probably a month or 2 times, so head over and I will see you there. Now back to the video.
So previously we also didn't have the site plan, so let's take a look at the first circle of quality. Point number 1, land size, facilities and facade. Now based on artist impression and show model, this looks a little bit like Martin Modern and Penrith having a baby. Now, land size is about 110,000 square feet. This is considered a mid-sized development, doesn't come into the category of very small projects. Total 2 blocks of 515 units shooting up to level 31. As you can see, most of the units are orientating as much as they can towards the sea facing. Either it's south, southeast, or southwest or southwest for some. Of course, you can't put every single unit facing the same direction, so some will be overlooking the future developments on the northern side. Some people say got a little bit of landed facing. To me, let's not count on that. Hearsay, about 300 odd units will be overlooking the ECP, full condo facilities. Now, everything is more or less the same elsewhere. The only thing is, of course, here you don't get a lap pool. Instead, you get those that resembles that of like Nava Grove and Tengah, which is like the big curvy, those 1990s, year 2000 kind of design. But actually, overall, the facilities and all are pretty standard given the land size isn't that big lah. So, because the selling point wouldn't be the condo itself, it would actually be more about the location, convenience, and the views. Of course, before I forget, those of you concerned about the ECP noise, I have a lot of you guys asking me the question. You need to understand that if you want to get the sea views in the East Coast, the traffic noise, it's a buy one get one free. Okay, non-negotiable. But the silver lining is this is almost at the end of the East Coast. Now, for those of you who are familiar, you know the ECP usually bottlenecks between Fort Road to like Marine Parade exit. Tanjong Katong exit still not too bad, but once you pass Marine Parade, then Siglap envelope will then take away most of the traffic, followed by Bayshore lah. Then after that, you usually get people who are like heading towards either Changi Airport or want to connect towards like Silin or Simei TPE direction lah. So the traffic on Vela Bay side won't be anywhere close to what you're going to get at like May or Amber side, which can be quite noisy. So I thought I would just share that just in case you guys get out. Okay, and of course I want to get the elephant out of the room. This is a fact, or rather it's a problem. The 50% car park lot. Okay, it will be an objection even with high COE prices or the fact that we are beside an MRT, okay? Because the East Coast area generally attracts more family than anything. So this point must be taken into consideration. There's no running away from that. So moving on to point number 2, which we have spent a lot of time on, which is layouts and pricing. Now, in previous video we did have that, so today we're going to concentrate it all on this segment. Now, let's set the parameters right first, okay? We will use seaside residences and Costa del Sol as a form of gauge to see if the price is too much or just about that. Disclaimer, as I mentioned, Costa del Sol is already 22 years old, so obviously you can't say like Costa del Sol cheaper then it has better value. I mean, let's be fair, it's already so old already because the new and the old cannot be same price. Yes, sometimes older resales will have better value, which is of course dependable on the price point as well. Now back to Vela Bay, smaller size here. Our friends decided to give you some 1-bedrooms to play around with. We haven't been getting 1-bedrooms for quite some time, and this 1-bedroom actually faces the sea, a bit wasted lah. Because 1-bedroom, who really cares? Since it's easily gonna range between like 1.35 to about like 1.5 million plus. I think as usual lah, okay, let's skip it. I have no comments on this. Now, next up, the 2-bedroom. We call it the 2-bed, 1-bath, A, B, and C. Now they're all 592 square feet, a typical dumbbell layout, galley kitchen with no windows in the kitchen area, and of course the toilets. No big deal, but 2 stacks overlooking the sea, 1 stack facing the unobstructed views on the north. Now, if I were to put an average number of let's say 3000 PSF, I think that should get you a mid-floor sea facing of like maybe 1.76, 1.77 million, maybe somewhere around there. However, because there's a stack that's facing away from the sea, I expect developers to potentially put a starting price of between 2,700 to 2,800 PSF for this unit type to kind of like bait buyers in. But I do expect realistically somewhere around 3,000 PSF for a mid-floor sea facing. Now, I know developers has sent out the guide price and it's going to be starting from 1.4xN, but like I said, let's be realistic. So looking at seaside residences, 2-bed, 1-bath, their units were sold at around $1.6 to $1.65 million for non-sea facing. Costa del Sol has no 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So if it's like a $1.75 million for a mid-floor sea facing, it doesn't feel that expensive. I mean, is it a good buy? It depends on your requirements, of course. The lower the merrier, but the price points isn't that shocking, right? So for the young couples, this is likely going to be taken out fairly quickly, at least for the sea facing ones. So this one so far, not too bad. So next up, the 2-bed, 2-bath. 4 unit types in total. You have 2 689 square feet and 2 678 square feet. Now, all of them are dumbbell layouts with the 689 square feet all built with a galley kitchen and the 678 with like proper kitchen space. Very straightforward. Now, the only drawback for this is the width of the living room is only like 2.8 meters, which is why I give like Gokoland credits in recent time. All their 2 bedrooms are at least like 3 meters wide, and that's very good. But interestingly, over here at Vela Bay, only one unit type faces out towards the northern direction with the other three overlooking the southern sea facing. So if I had to use, let's say, 689 times 3000 PSF, you are probably looking around $2.05 million mid-floor, 11 to 15th floor also. Then if you look at seaside residences, they have done theirs at $1.8 million for lower floors and mid-floor somewhere around like $2.1 million. So from a 3000 PSF point of view, Vela Bay seems high, but when you look at the quantum, I think it's absolutely fair. You got what I mean? Like, of course, if you're gonna get a low floor non-sea facing, my guess, as usual, it could start from like 2,700 PSF, which is about like $1.85 million. So quite okay leh, for a 2-bedroom here. That is not too expensive until it becomes expensive, obviously on the super higher floors. Now, next up we have is the 3 compact, 3 A, B, C, 883 square feet and 893 square feet. Now, all three are very, very different layouts. Now, 3A reminds me of the 3 compact at the Penrith. This one, unfortunately, is a non-sea facing unit, so it should be the cheapest among the 3 compacts. Now, 3B corridor, a bit waste of space, and the layout is like the conventional layout, except like 1 bedroom tucked to a corner. But this is the only configuration that gives you windows in the kitchen and bathroom, just in case you guys are particular about it. Because it's a corner unit, so watch out for that. 3C is a dumbbell layout, but like 3A, it has like no windows in the kitchen and toilets. Bedroom 3 also should be like either half window or those kind of like half window frosted. And then kitchen also open, but it's the only one that faces some part of sea, although at an angle towards the southeastern side. So the 3 compact series is really very interesting. Each layout type here has its like pros and cons. Personally, I reckon 3C will definitely sell much better as it's the only sea facing, but for someone who's probably more budget sensitive, may see a push to buy the landed facing ones. So 893 times $3 per square foot in any case is $2.67 million for a sea facing. Then for non-landed facing, 2,700 per square foot, it could start as low as maybe $2.35 million. So expect the delta between the lower floors to a mid-floor facing premium to be like 300k. Is it that big? Well, I mean, it depends on what's your priority, because at seaside residences, the 3 compact 1023 sells at between like $2.3 to $2.5 million. And at Costa del Sol, they do not have a 3 compact unit, so it's really quite hard compare on the aspect. Now, I know developers also has floated the guide price for this at 2.2xm. I believe they are a little bit more aggressive on the marketing. I still believe that the prices will start averagely somewhere around 2.35 now. Now, given the neighborhood is so old, you really don't have much supply on this kind of like 3-bedroom compact type. And if you can get anything in the like $2.4 to $2.6 million, it really doesn't deviate too much from seaside residences, which is of course going to be our main competitor. Now, next up is the 3 premium. We call it the 3 premium ABC, all same size, 1033 square feet, and the layouts are almost 90% identical, except like the foyer and kitchen space is slightly a little bit different for some, but this is as standard as it gets. You see this in almost every new launch 3 premium. Okay, we call this the typical portrait layout. All rooms at one side, a very safe design. Comes obviously with an extra bomb shelter and a WC. Rooms are all 9.1 square meter, love it. All can fit in a queen size bed comfortably. Now, there's only one 3 premium that is non-sea facing. The rest are all like pretty good, with Stack 3 likely being the most expensive among the lot because that has the best view. So if you use 3,000 per square foot, multiply by 1033 square feet, $3.1 million probably for like a mid-floor sea facing. Now, does that sound expensive? Again, let's see. Seaside has a few variations of the 3 bedrooms between the range of like $2.6 million for like similar 1087 square feet to about $3.4 million for the largest 1259 square feet, with the average like happening around that $2.9 to $3 million range for the past year. And Costa also has actually transacted between like 2.5 to as high as $2.92 million recently. So once again, at $3.1 million for something that is new, although it looks expensive, it is not that expensive, because it is not what people make out to be until like you dive deep into it, like what we are doing right now. $2.7 million, $2.8 million, you buy a 20-odd years old resale, or let's say even a 10 years old resale in the likes of seaside residences. You top up a bit more for something brand new. I don't see why people won't make this move. So next up, the 1173 square feet 4-bedroom compact unit with 2 toilets. They are both essentially the same layout, just with different entrances. Now, this builds exactly like the previous 3-bedroom premium, just with like an additional bedroom. Now, room sizes are also the same. In fact, the master bedroom for the 3-bedroom is marginally bigger than this 4. So this is really actually suitable for people looking for compact size 4 bedrooms but don't want to burn a hole in their pocket. And should be told, I think this caters to the HDB upgraders coming outside the Bayshore area wanting to enjoy the convenience and lifestyle that Vela Bay brings to you. Anyway, both units are also sea-facing, one mostly facing south and the other like a little bit southwest facing. Obviously, Stack 9 should be the more favoured stack over Stack 15 because Stack 15 has a sea view, yes, but it's more like a pocket sea view, right? Like see through the gap between Costa del Sol and Vela Bay. And of course, you orientate towards the direction, you got a bit more sun in the balcony and the rooms. So from a pricing perspective, developers have floated a $3.1x million starting from for this unit type. Let's say it's $3.15 million. That is 2685 PSF. Do I think that is realistic? Obviously not. I think there's likely some element of kind of like baiting here, and you're definitely not going to get a sea-facing as I mentioned at this price ladder. Also, adopt a much safer approach. You'll put a 3000 PSF, you will land up somewhere around $3.5 million. Now, is that expensive or it's not expensive? Of course, let's take a look again at Seaside and Costa del Sol. But unfortunately, these two developments do not have like those 4 compact series. But to get a sense of how much their 4 bedrooms cost, it's around $3.4 million about 2 years back for the Seaside residences, smaller 1485 square feet. And the larger ones, which is the best unit type in my opinion, sells at like $4.2 to $4.4 million. So Costa del Sol 4 bedroom, $2.9 million to as high as $3.3 million. Our range of let's say $3.1 to $3.5 million. Actually, I think you can more or less guess that the premium should be loaded on the per level jump. Once you hit a certain level and you get sea facing, I believe it's really going to come closer to like the $3.5 million mark. Now this price range is marginally higher than Costa del Sol and just about the same price as Seaside residences. So can I say it's expensive? Well, I can't really do. Of course, if the developers give chance and put some sea facing units at around like $3.3 million there about, all the better. In terms of demand, I expect these units to move as much also. But once it hits a certain price levels, the unit should see some resistance, unless I'm wrong again. For like River Modern, even all the super high floors, super heavy premium facing also all snap up. That was quite unexpected. But you know, who knows? Next up, the 4 bedroom premium 1378 square feet with private lift. Of course, this is to cater probably to the Easties who are already in the East, where some like condo upgraders going to a larger unit type. The living room width of 4 meters is a little bit disappointing given it's meant to be atas. So this is considered a semi-landscape portrait layout. Rooms are about the same size. 4 bedroom premium units, definitely, of course, you're going to get additional toilets, Jack and Jill, a junior ensuite. Then at the back area, closer to where the back door is also where the bomb shelter is going to be. And there's also there's this like empty space there beside the TV box, which I can imagine most people will just convert it to like a storage or camping space. So all in all, except the width of the living room, everything else is what you should come to expect of a premium 4 bedroom. So if I do a simple multiplication of 3000 PSF to this 1378 square feet, should see it landing at about like $4.1 million for sea facing. Now, one thing to take note also before I forget, this 4 bedroom type is located at block number 3. Now, this is the building that is further away from the expressway, which means that you get both the view and of course lesser noise. And don't forget, you also get the view of the park at what we call the Bayshore Walk, which is just beside Vela Bay. Definitely, this looks more expensive than neighboring options. Now, only Seaside residences probably cost more than this for their like 1733 square feet at about like, as I mentioned, $4.2 to $4.4 million. But take note, even accounting harmonization in this is easily 300 to 400 square feet smaller. So can I say it's cheap? No, it is not cheap, right? There's premium to pay. But this one really attracts the peeps who are particular about their sea views, wants a sizable 4 bedroom and certainly buying for own use. So take note for buyers out there, when it starts to get to a range of let's say above 3000 PSF, you are really clear of all your competitions that is out there now. So that one you really need to pay attention. Okay? And of course, the final unit type, the 5 bedroom 1582 square feet, best facing, of course, naturally the best spot and development reserved for the largest unit type. Now, private lift coming into a unit with, again, a semi-portrait landscape layout. To be honest, 5 bedrooms to have a width of only 4.3 meters, it's a bit underwhelming. I was hoping it's like a 5.5 to 6 meters. Reminds me a lot of the Ori 5 bedroom, which was a little bit compact. Okay, I can imagine so to fit in quantum, right? Entry level. Now, common bedrooms are also 9.1 square meter. Junior ensuite, a solid almost 10 square meters. Bedroom 5 is 11.4 square meters. Might look a little bit big on paper, but of course some of the space goes to the walk area, which is quite redundant. So total 4 bathrooms, kitchen, is quite big, although cabinet space should be somewhat limited also lah. And the long yard area makes the whole back area looks a little bit narrow. Oh yeah, talking about the cabinet space is because you got a dry kitchen lah. So overall, this is the only 5 bedrooms for offering the entire Siglap and Bayshore area with the exception of like some penthouses in the resale properties. So this will really fight on its own. And as per every 5 bedrooms out there, there's really don't need to analyze too much as the people there are buying mostly for own use. They don't really care so much about what people say or how expensive it is. But for argument's sake, 3,000 per square foot times 1,582 square feet, you could see a mid-floor like hitting somewhere around $4.8 million. Again, developers have floated the guide price of like 4.5 XM. Let's say 4.55, it's going to start from like 2,850 PSF. So there's a natural premium for a larger units, which what developers are doing these days. But do take note, with this same budget or with some slight top-up, you can start to shop already for Main Road or Amber area for a comfortable 4-bedroom freehold unit. Again, if you need 5 physical bedrooms that comes with sea-facing, then of course you don't have much of a choice. Of course, is there any other larger units available? No, there's still 2 more penthouse units, but do we really need to analyze that? Don't need. Developers already said that these 2 units are not for sale. So yep, this is just about all for the layouts and pricing range for Vela Bay, which brings me to the conclusion. Now at first glance, Vela Bay does seem to look very expensive, that is a fact. But if you look at it just from a technicality point of view, actually you're right lah. But you will understand perspective and context once you do a deep dive into analyzing the neighborhood itself. People may find it expensive, but they didn't realize that seaside residences have already sold their pre-harmonized unit as high as 2,700 per square foot. If you don't do your research on this, you won't know and you think it's expensive. But now that you know, do you think Vela Bay is terribly expensive? I'm not saying it's cheap, okay? It is not cheap, but the range is pretty fair from an entry-level point of view. I think, of course, it's fair until it hits a certain level, then the price will jump quite significantly. And then the purpose of such purchase will determine if you should proceed or not. Now, if you're an investor, then set some walkaway price. Just like how I did for Pinery, there should always be an emotionless decision to step away from something once it becomes too expensive, correct? But for those buying for longer term own use, I want to share this one thing. If you use like seaside residences as an example, day one it was like I think 1,600 to maybe 1,800 PSF. Then subsequently, a couple of months or even 1 year later, the developers mark up the price to let's say 1,800 to 2,000 per square foot. It would have burst our walkaway price at the point of time, but fast forward X amount of years later, this goes at about 2,700 per square foot. You pay a bit more, but you still make more. Okay, so since it's for own use, then just buy something you like and can hold for long. No right, no wrong, because I can only comment from a financial point of view, someone looking at it only from an investment angle. For own use, sometimes you overanalyze, it's also like what we call analysis paralysis. Okay? Is Vela Bay really is in a location that is pretty sought after, which is the East Coast. Brand new township, you have a future overpass and all, or actually they have an underpass that connects straight to ECP, MRT at the doorstep. One stop away is going to be the massive mall in about like 4 or 5 years time. That was the Bedok South GRS coming up. You're also going to get a fair bit of amenities coming in from the HDB estates, the brand new ones. It really is a perfect recipe for a popular project. But just like every other project, there's always a price to it. And because Singaporeans are like crazy over their sea-facing units, the premium paid will usually be consistent in time to come. But once again, this is an OCR project that will likely kick any of the CCR properties in the butt.